I'm Larry LaFury. This is John Fancola. We are WCTV, the all-volunteer cable access group from the Township of Washington. And tonight we're going to have a review of the quarterfinal games that were played at FDU last night. And we're going to look forward to the semifinal games. They're going to be played at Hackensack at 1 o'clock this Saturday afternoon, 1 and 3. We'll get through all that information. We're going to have, hopefully we'll have two coaches on, Coach Vario from Don Bosco Prep and Mike Doherty from St. Joe's. Of course, both teams won yesterday in great style, and they're getting ready to move on to the semifinals and hopefully to the finals. John, they had a nice crowd there for the 4 games. I think the Jamboree committee is very happy about it. But before we get in there, we started the Jamboree a number of weeks ago. We had Paul Police, coach, the chairman, with Rookie Corcoran, and they seeded the 24 teams. And when the smoke cleared, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. They hit it on the head.
Fantastic picking. But I think it was pretty easy. You could have probably had 5 or 6 teams. It was an easy time to pick them, and all the winners are there.
And we want to say that the 4th seed, I've seen them once from afar. They played a team that I think they should have beaten easily. But the 4th team, the Ramsey team, was surely impressive. Now, you expect the Boscos and the Bergens and the Joes to be well coached with great athletes. But, boy, that Ramsey team was really, really good and showed me a lot. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with down the road. And we'll talk a little bit about it when we preview Saturday's game.
Could you imagine if they would win it all?
Oh, my
Ramsey?
God. Well,
first time they get into the quarters of Jamboree, right, and all of a sudden take the trophy home.
And one other thing we're going to mention quickly before I forget, and we have to mention because they treat us so well, Mark Fisco, who's at the security at FDU, posed a question before the first game. When was the last time that Teaneck wasn't in the Jamboree? And there was silence. We looked around. Jim McConville, who has all the stats going back to the 1950s, just stared at me, and I stared at him. And John looked at me, and Ed had the crowd, and we didn't know. And we looked, and who said 1988? Who said 1952? And it was 2006. It wasn't that long ago.
You would not believe the statistic that
McConville
has.
Oh, my God.
I mean, he went on and pages after pages on the computers. Unbelievable.
But I don't remember them not making it in 2006. I mean, it's 14 years ago. I forgot what I had dinner a half hour ago. But it was amazing how he comes up, Mark, and he's smiling, and he said, well, because he's from Teaneck. He worked at Teaneck. I think he was a police officer in Teaneck. He went to school in Teaneck. And he said, what was the last? He didn't know the answer. He didn't know the answer. So he wanted, and Jim, thank God Jim was there, else we'd be going crazy looking for this.
If not, we had to call Curtis Marsh. He would tell us.
He's down in South Carolina.
He would call us.
You think he'd remember?
Of course he would.
Well, so I just want to thank Mark, and before we go any further, because I don't want to forget at the end of the show, I want to thank everybody at FDU, Mark and David, for all the help they gave us yesterday. And over the years, how nice they've been to us and how courteous they've been to us. They're a great bunch of people. They make our time at FDU really easy. So thank you so very much for the help. And we want to say also the Bergen County Coach Association and the Jamboree Committee and the staff athletic department. Want to thank the following staffs: Bergen Catholic, Hackensack High School, Indian Hills High School, Northern Highlands, Tenafly High School, Westwood, and of course Fairleigh Dickinson High School. These are all the schools that played host to some form of basketball.
Your St. Joe's coach on.
Oh, we now have, well, we're jumping to the St. Joe's coach. We have Mike Doherty, so we jump to him. We expect him to be first, but we're very good about this. Coach Doherty, thank you very much for coming on, and welcome to WCTV's Sports Show.
It's good to be back. I'm glad you guys can hear me.
Oh, we can hear you. Now, sometimes, you know, this equipment here is fickle, and the electricity doesn't work, but we got you up. You played a great game last night, Mike. You played a team that was well coached, and it was a grind-out game. Explain the game to the folks who may not have been there, and the folks who were there, maybe you can give them some insight.
I think you described it very well. It was a grinded-out game. We've got two opponents that know each other very well, and in a lot of ways, I think we mirror each other, and we're very, very similar teams. Very guard-oriented, and even our quote-unquote forwards, Wennerston for Ridgewood and Ansley Avenor for us, are guys that can face the basket, shoot from the outside, that can put the ball on the floor. And so, it was a very perimeter-oriented game, and, it was and very similar styles. It was... Ridgewood had the better of us for sure most of the game. I was pleased that we were able to make a couple of mini runs and just keep it close. And then, fortunately, in the fourth quarter, we were able to get a little bit of space. But the game was never the lead was never safe, and it really went down to the end.
But Coach, down at Tenafly, I know you were up there watching that game. And I guess when you saw all those guards for Ridgewood throwing the threes, and then, of course, seeing Tristan Winston inside having 29 points, you knew it was going to be a tough game.
Yeah, we had played Ridgewood earlier in the year in our holiday, tournament, holiday events. And we actually, we scrimmaged them each year. So, we are very familiar with them. Mike Troy obviously is an excellent coach, and the kids play so hard. But as you said, against Fairlawn, they were on fire and hitting the threes, and sometimes you think you're playing good D, but the kids are in a shooting zone, and there's very little you can do. And there were periods of that yesterday. Matt Favieri and Devin Johnson, really were hit. A couple of shots we didn't close out great on, but there were other ones where I thought our kids did a really nice job, and they just stuck it. And those are the scary times, because then you're saying, what else can you do? And you just hope they don't hit too many of those shots.
But remember that game yesterday, you had Nazir Williams, really. He had 2 quick fouls, and with 1 to 2 fouls, he only had 5 points at that point. He had to take him out of the game. Now you brought back in. Now you made a defensive change to start the fourth quarter. I think your assistant coach you spoke to, and it was really, I thought, the key move in order to make that run and to win the game, because you only went in 1 point. At the end of the third quarter was 1 point, you were up. So
yeah, you had Devin Johnson hit a couple of three-pointers. So what John's alluding to, did you make specific changes on that young man after he made those 3 points, those threes?
Regarding Johnson hitting the threes and Favieri got they spread it around a little bit. Each of the guards were I think each hit 1, but I think the adjustment was primarily just communicating better. In the first half, they really had too much spacing, and we just were not, I think, at that point being very smart about our offensive possessions and taking care of the ball. We had 4 turnovers really early, and they hit 3 threes, I think, almost on 3 consecutive possessions. And as you said, we were struggling to score. So to give up 9 points in about 30 seconds was not a good formula for success. I think as the game went on, little by little, our guards just got a little better at not giving up as much space. Being able to close out a little better and making the Ridgewood guards work a little harder to get their shots. And as you said before, we did nothing crazy defensively, but we did try and extend the floor a little bit and go to a little more full court pressure, not necessarily to get a ton of traps, but just to maybe change the tempo just a little bit so that Ridgewood couldn't always get into their half-court sets, which they run really well, just as comfortable as they had been doing. So, that Mark Cieslak and Dan Davis, really kind of pushed that, and it was, I think it helped us, and I think it also helped us indirectly just getting our guys maybe a little more just in the flow of what we could do, pushing the ball a couple of times.
Because, Mike, when you went to fourth quarter was 2 point. You were up by 2,
Right.
40-38, and you just brought in your shooter, Williams, and your defense. To me, I go back a long time with you, and I know that if you don't play defense at St. Joe's, you don't play. Is that correct?
We pride ourselves in trying to work hard, and because we know there's going to be some nights where the shots aren't falling, and if we can make the other team work hard on offense, we think we can be in the game and have a chance. And our kids, to their credit, buy into that. We're not always perfect in terms of maybe following all the laws of defense, if you will, but I know our kids are gonna work hard, and this is a characteristic of this particular team that they don't get phased if we're down. Earlier in the year we were down double digits against Gill St. Bernard's. We were down double digits against Don Bosco in the first time we played, and the kids will fight back. So that's good. I mean, listen, I don't advocate going down 8 and 9 points just so you can try and come back. But at least we know the kids are mentally tough in that they're not going to ever get too down on themselves. And yesterday was a good example of that too. We were down. I know we were down at least 8 points. Might have been even more in the first half.
Coach, John brought up the point that there was a 1 point difference in the fourth quarter, and you started the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken, with an alley-oop pass from Williams to Lands. Was that play set up at the break between the third and the fourth quarter? Or did you set that play up a couple of days earlier, trying to get it a right spot for it? Because I think it set the tone for the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was a big play. That is a play that we've run a couple of times throughout the season. We hadn't run it in a while, and it was good timing, I think, for that. And the kids executed it really nicely, and that was also a Dan Davis special. So he's, I'm very fortunate that I'm surrounded by excellent coaches with Dan Davis, Mark Cieslak, Tom May, and I'm certainly not afraid to tap into their knowledge. And they were really quite instrumental in yesterday's win. But that play. We've used it before, and you're right. I think because it was not a high-scoring game, even though it put us up from 2 to 4 points, it certainly gave our kids a lift. It got them energized, and I think it did help us to go on that little run and get a little space in the fourth.
We should mention Nazir Williams had his 1,000 point.
Yes.
Which is a great feat, as always. You had well-balanced scoring. Williams had 17. You had Almanov 15, 14 for Lands, 7 and 5 for Serrano and Rogers. I mean, your first 5. It was an excellent game, great defense.
Yeah. I thank you for pointing that out. That is certainly a strength of this team, and interestingly, you mentioned Diary Rogers and Albert Serrano, scoring 7 and 5. And there have been many games where Dyrie's averaging probably 13 or so a game. So Albert's had big outputs for us, and also Malcolm Capers, who really is like a sixth starter. I mean, Malcolm came off the bench this game, but he started a number of games, and he's had big offensive outbursts, and that's a nice thing. These guys, when we're playing well, and I think. Playing appropriately, and I think the kids share the ball, and that's a nice thing that we have many capable scorers, and certainly having 3 guys in double figures yesterday is important because it's tough to key on any one guy.
Well, Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, you play no stranger. You've played them a couple of times. You're going to probably play them a couple of more times. You're going to play Don Bosco. It should be a great game. I don't think you have to do much scouting. I think both of you know each other very well. Just very, very quickly, how do you see that game, and what's going to be the key for you to win?
Yeah, you're right. We certainly know them very well. They're in our league and our division. we played them twice so far, and we'll certainly see them Saturday, and on the other side of the bracket in the States, and we'd both have to go far in our section. But listen, it's there. I think Don Bosco is playing as well as anybody in probably the state right now. They're really, really playing very well. They've got great senior leadership and a lot of talented young guys. And Kevin DeVario's it's not an accident that Don Bosco has the success they do year in, year out. I mean, he's one of the top coaches in the state, and he's got him primed at the right time. Miles Ruth is an outstanding guard. Brendan McCalcio is very, very talented swing man, 6'4", but can shoot inside and out. And they're we're gonna have our hands full. I know it's going to be a very energized atmosphere, and I think our kids will be ready. So it should hopefully be a good one.
I'm sure it'll be a good one. And again, it's 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon at Hackensack High School. So, Coach, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with us. You're always a favorite of WCTV. You've always been very kind to us. We wish you well, and we'll see you on the basketball court.
Thank you guys for having me back. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to talk with you guys, and I appreciate you including St. Joe's. I'll see you Saturday.
Okay, thank you very much, Coach Mike Doherty of St. Joe's High School. He's going to play Don Bosco. Let's talk about the Don. We're going to try to get Kevin DeVario on. Maybe we can find him. A lot of times these coaches are either practicing or working or doing something. With coaching duties always come up, so it's tough to get them sometimes at 7 o'clock. Don Bosco played Hackensack. Boy, did they! The word I want to use, they put on a clinic.
Unbelievable. And Larry, you and I saw him in Paramus Catholic a couple of days earlier, and I didn't know what to expect. But you summarize it to a T. That was a clinic. They stopped that offense and the running, and they made a game the way Don Bosco likes to win the game.
It's a very well-coached team. I think I mentioned to you, we're at courtside, and I mentioned to you, John, I said, look at the number of passes they make. They hit the open man. The ball comes around the perimeter, goes in, it comes out. They find for an open shot. They look for the open shot, the guy's open, and if they get a guy off maybe on a back door, they try to hit it. It's so well coached, 5 passes, which is difficult, but they do it. Now, Miles Ruth had 24 points in that game, but John, he also had 8 rebounds. So he does everything. He brings the ball up, he shoots, and he does rebound. He's one of the better ones. All right. As we're talking about the coach for Don Bosco, Kevin DeVario. Coach, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Oh, hi. This is Larry Ferry, WCTV. Coach, John and I were just going over again, recapping your game, and the word that we finally came was that the game last night that you played was a clinic. You played so well and methodically. How would you describe the game after 24 hours later, looking it over? What would you tell the fans how you played?
I thought it was probably our most complete game for the year, both offensively and defensively. I don't know if it was a clinic, but I thought we played a complete game.
You sure did. You played both ends of the court. But your 2 players, talk a little bit about them. I mean, Miles Ruth, people know about. But Brendan McCalcio, he had 21 points and 9 rebounds. Talk about that young man as a player and as a leader.
Brendan's a kid who has always had tremendous upside and seems to be coming into his own now, after probably the first quarter of the season and playing his best basketball of his career. He's a tough matchup at 6'6" and plays on the wing, can shoot and handle the ball, and, we can post him up and he can score in there. And now he's just starting to give us a lot more defensively and has been a presence on the glass for us all year. Something we've asked him to do. We're not the biggest team, but he really gives us an extra rebounder on the defensive end.
But then you had Miles Ruth, who had a fantastic game from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you got to talk about this young man, Akil Watson, a freshman. The young man, he didn't have as many points. He had 11 points, but what a player, what a future this young man will have at Don Bosco.
No, I mean, Miles, dynamic point guard. You know, he's extremely quick with the ball, shares the ball. He's the same thing. He's been playing great in terms of not only scoring but distributing the ball to his teammates and piling up assists late in the season here. And then Akil Watson, like you said, great upside. You know, 6'7", long, athletic. He's been starting since day one, and big transformation from the beginning of the season until now, and you know, provides us with scoring both inside and outside, rebounding, you know, and does a really nice job defensively for us as well.
You know, you mentioned Miles Ruth. He had 24 points. You know, you had well-balanced points, but what you did on defense, I mean, you had at least turned over at least 20 turnovers. I don't think we had the stats on that, Larry, but.
And at the end of the first half, it was like 12 turnovers.
So probably around 20 turnovers. And Hackensack is a team that can play with anybody when they distribute the ball. But last night they kept the ball pretty much in the hands of Kevin Mateo, who had 22. But you guys played an A game, as I saw.
I thought we really played well defensively.
Yeah, Kevin, you're going to play St. Joe's, and I think we just got finished talking to Mike Doherty, and you know each other very well. What is the key for the game for you to be successful Saturday at 1 o'clock at Hackensack High School?
You know, they're such a good, well-balanced team that can get production from any of their 5 starters. I don't know the stats, but I would venture to guess that every one of the starters at some point during the year has scored 20 points or more. You know, so it's difficult to, you know, just to, you know, focus on one player or 2 players, because they have a number of kids who can really do some damage offensively. They get, you know, Danny Lands is so disruptive defensively, gets his hands on everything. He's so good at both ends of the floor. You know, I think he's a big key. You know, you kind of have to try to limit the impact he has on the game. And it's just not offensively. You have to try to figure out how to limit his impact defensively as well. You know, we just have to play well, worry about how we play our game, and, you know, hopefully ball bounces our way on Saturday.
You know, people, I know all basketball fans know this, and some people who are very into basketball may not know, but you had a great program day. You've been to the Jamboree countless times. You were at the finals last year, the year before you won it. My question to you, after all these years and getting in the Jamboree and going deep into it and winning your shares of championship, it's a twofold question. What does the Jamboree mean to the program, and maybe what does it mean to Kevin Vario?
You know, for me personally, you know, I always have felt it's a great tournament. I think it is one of the best county tournaments in the state. A lot of people consider it the best county tournament in the state. I remember going back to, you know, watching in high school, you know, days of, you know, like the Rutherford Demorest final, and, you know, when all the games were at Hackensack, you know, in one setting. I thought it was great. And, you know, the fact that they've been able to carry on the tradition of this tournament this long, and how all the schools look forward to participating in it. And I just think it's a great opportunity to showcase Bergen County basketball. And then, you know, for the program, it had been, you know, before 1997, it had been a long time since Don Bosco had won it. You know, so that was kind of an important year for us, 1997 championship, and to be able to continue on with the success we've had since then has been it's been a good run.
You know, I always, Kevin, kid around about that. You know, people, I say that this tournament is not, best in the state, best in the country. And people keep coming to me and say, you mentioned this is the best. I believe that, to me, this is the best tournament. It's run tremendous. Coaches are great. The teams play well. Everything is done perfect. It's 2-3 weeks of games. We love it, and I'm prejudiced to this. I love it here. This is a great team.
It fills up February. I know it must be difficult for coaches because you have your regular games and then you got the Jamboree and you got to balance a lot of things. But it is a great tournament, and you do a wonderful job up there at Don Bosco year in, year out. The consistency of the Don Bosco program is one to be really looked at and commended. So we wish you luck. We wish you luck on Saturday when you take on St. Joe's, and hopefully you do well and move on to the finals. So thank you for taking time coming on. Good luck on Saturday, and we'll see you around the basketball courts.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Good luck, Kevin.
Good luck.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That's Kevin Vario, the basketball coach at Don Bosco Prep. And now we move on. Let's move on to the Ramsey Paramus Catholic High School. John, we mentioned a little bit. I was extremely impressed with the Ramsey Rams. They are a legitimate. They were a 4 seed, and you know what? It was legitimate. They're good. They're strong. They play defense. They play offense. They hit the open man. They set screens. I mean, what more do you want? And this Sean Hansen I believe he's going to Cornell. Absolutely. Look, we have the scores up on the board. You could see in the first quarter, they really took advantage of Paramus Catholic, and that catapulted them to a 63-46 win.
When you want to win a game, that's the way you got to always start. 17 points to 5, and this team, they run a great offense. Sean Hansen, they take him out, they bring somebody in. I was impressed. And you know what? It's a team, as I look at it, you can't back off.
Yeah, we had a small flub on the numbers there. So we make there we go.
What was that?
Well, we had it was 12 points, Ramsey, in the fourth quarter. I know they're good, but they can't score 120 points.
Oh no! I was looking at 17 to 5.
I
was just.
Yeah.
I was only 17 to 5, which is the best.
Well, that's it. So you see how it went from the second quarter on. Paramus Catholic tried to stay close, but they just couldn't.
Well, Ramsey really took care of all the plays, with the exception of Derek Bueno.
Yeah.
And that young man who fell twice against Don Bosco when we were watching him. Remember, we figured he wasn't going to play. He had 21 points. He was inside, outside man.
Yeah.
He was the one who really played his best bet with Paramus Catholic.
Derek Bono had 21 of the 46. We had 46 points for Paramus Catholic, and he's a junior, and he's going to be hurt from next year. He's going to be a stud in the middle. We're going to be reading about him. We'll be doing some of the games there, and they'll probably be back in the Jamboree again next year. But we
should mention the players for Ramsey, since they haven't been out there. Just to give you, Quinley, number 2, young man, had 11 points. Jack Farrow, a 6'5" player, had 10 points. Then you had, giving you anybody over 10 points, Sean Hansen, we mentioned, had 17 points. Stephen Turk had 10 points.
They really spread it out.
And this is a team that plays both ends of the court.
Okay, now let's just talk about preview. Now they're going to play Bergen Catholic.
Well, Bergen Catholic, in their game.
Well, we'll just
it's a team. I don't know how they match up against Bergen, because Bergen has got the 4-guard offense. Mm-hmm. And I think 4-guard offense, and they can play inside, outside. They can shoot, they play defense. Athletic. And then they have Zona, who's going to Notre Dame, who's getting healthy.
Right.
He's been sick all year. So Ramsey really has to play their defense man-to-man. Don't have too many fouls, make the right shots, and stay in the game and give them a shot.
All right, we'll talk about Bergen, who has to play Ramsey. If you want to see guards run, you have to see the Bergen Catholic guards. They are athletic, they're quick, they're well coached, they can take you off the dribble, they can pull up and hit the jump shot. And in the middle, like you got Mr. Zoner on his way to Notre Dame. Well balanced, well coached. They have a number of kids coming off the bench that help them. That's why they are number one in the Jamboree.
And what Billy Armstrong did in that game, he really took out his players. You know, he wanted every player on his team to play in that game. And he didn't care if they won by 10 or 5 points in that game. And this is a true coach, a guy who really loves the kids, and he's going to be a tough one to knock off.
Right, and some of the players that the Bergen had, you had Jasim Davis had 12, Will Richardson had 17 points, Julian Brown had 12, Matt Zona had 7. Had a kid there named Diari Duncan who came off the bench, who looks like he's going to turn into a very good player. I had him down for 12 points.
12 points, couple of fouls. It was a well-played game. Everybody played, you know, and when the score is 51 to 32 at one point, you know, he pulled everybody. Everybody played, and the final score was what, 68 to 43, which was a nice game.
Paramus Catholic, Pascat Kills, they played their hearts out.
We should mention
the senior, the 00, Aiden Keogh had 13 points. He played very well. Jake Morales had 15. So they played their hearts out. The coach mentioned, I saw one of his quotes, that they played as hard as they could. They gave him everything they could, and he was very proud of their effort.
I think he's a junior.
Who's that? Keogh?
Keogh.
Yeah, I think so, yes.
He's a junior. He'll be back. And he's a true, this is a story about the mom.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the mom, he's about 6'9".
Okay.
A true 6'9". And the story was they had him at 6'7", and mom called up and said, you know, my son is a little bigger than 6'7", and of course back and forth. And last night, of course, we had Zono, who's 6'8", and you had Keogh. He was about an inch taller than him. So we could tell Mom, your son is definitely 6'9".
So he is, and he is a junior. I just checked
He is
the
a
sheet
junior.
while you spoke.
And he had 13 points, and I tell you, he could be one of the better players in the county.
Well, again, he's a junior, and they're only going to get better. There's a lot of upside to these kids.
And Pascat Kills in their group could go a long way with this team. They showed a lot of class in the game. We can mention some of the scores. We mentioned Keogh with 13. Morales had 15. Schulman had 9. And they had that offense. You know, they pass the ball. They don't take bad shots.
Right.
And they'll be in the game.
John, I just want to back up for a second. I don't know if we mentioned it. We were talking to Coach Doherty, the Ridgewood team. One of the kids who played very well there was Matt Favieri, who I believe had 17 points. Outstanding player. Ridgewood is going to be heard from when they get into the States.
You know, before we were talking to Mike Doherty, I was going to ask that question and talk to him because he was up in the stand. He was playing the game, and he watched the Ridgewood game. And Ridgewood, the guards on Ridgewood can shoot. I mean, they have, you mentioned Favieri, you had Wennersten in the middle, had 29 points to go ahead. Then you had Devin Johnson, and they all shoot the three. They had 9, 10 threes.
Right.
And when you play a team that can shoot from the outside and go to the hoop, you're gonna have problems.
So now we have we're down to the last 2 weeks, the semifinals and finals. The semifinals will be played at Hackensack because FDU could not accommodate them. They have something like a college basketball game there, men's and women's. How can they do that?
We got the best tournament in the world.
Well, they had the men and women coming in. They need the court for the men to practice and the women to practice. Both teams, so that's 4 practices. So they just couldn't accommodate the semifinals there. Hackensack was nice enough to offer their large gymnasium. If you go into the game on Saturday, I'm telling you now, get there early, get a seat. It could be extremely, extremely crowded. You got 2 great games at 1 o'clock. You've got St. Joe's playing Don Bosco, and then you got this outstanding Ramsey team taking on the #1 seed, Bergen Catholic.
Should be fantastic. You can see the score on February 22nd. And you're going to be away, right? You're going to be away. I will be there. Hopefully we'll show it, and then I'm going to be away. So we have to tell the Jamboree next year. You got to let us know ahead of time. So Larry and John do not plan to be away from this tournament.
No, I already put it on the calendar. 2021.
Oh, probably
February,
4 months.
just all crossed out with
Probably
an X.
April. You got all the way into April,
I put
right?
it it's like the football schedule. I just cross everything out. And then, of course, the finals will be on the 28th of February back at FDU. The winners of the semifinals, of course, will play. And let me give you advice for that one. In the past, there are no seats. So if you get there at 7 o'clock or 2 minutes to 7, even 5 to 7, you may have a hard time finding seats, so get there. So we've gotten to the semifinal. We just want to make one program note. WCTV will try to put a recap on all the games on Monday, March 2nd. We'll have it. We're going to tape it. We'll check our schedule as to what time it'll be on. Sometime in the afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock, we'll have the great Brian Carr here. Brian Carr will come in and he will talk a little bit about the game, okay? So these are the how it all broke down so far. We're coming to the end of the 64th Oscar F. Thompson Memorial Basketball Tournament.
You think if we can give someone the opportunity, if someone can name all these teams without any sheets in front of you, you may win a pool.
Yeah, only Paul and the committee can do that.
Look at all those teams.
So that's how everything is broken down. That's the way it comes. And again, you see, 1 will play 4, 2 will play 3. So the committee did a great job.
1
in the
through
seating.
4.
They did a great job. So we hope you enjoy it. This show, we'll try to come back on March 2nd for a total recap of the entire Jamboree, the whole month of February. There's March Madness and there's the fabulous February. So for Fred, Ida, and Emily out in front, Ricky and Nick and Sean at the controls, there they are. Thank you all very much. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Good night.